Hello guys, welcome to MINNA no Nihongo lesson 49. In this video, we will be covering the grammar, vocabulary, the English translation for Reibun and Bunkei, and we will also be bringing you this bonus clip about talking on the phone. Lesson 49 and 50 is one of the challenging lessons in the book. Make sure you watch till the end of the video. Let's get started. The grammar for this lesson begin with keigo. What is keigo? Keigo is a form of an honorific expression. There are three ways that keigo can be expressed in a conversation where you are talking about someone of a higher status or talking to someone of a higher status. First way, which we call level 1, is using a keigo converted verbs. Second way, which we call level 2, is by adding ni narimasu at the end of the verb. Level 2 is more respectful than level 1. The third way is to use some of the keigo equivalent words. This third way has the same respectfulness as level 2. Next, we will learn the grammar form for instructing or inviting someone to do something in a respectful way. This is when we use kudasai. Aside from the verb, noun, adverbs, and adjectives can also be turned into a polite form. This is considered more of a teineigo polite expression by attaching an o or go to the front of the word. Lastly, we will learn when we change the verb te form to verb mashite. The sentence will become more polite. So these are the 7 grammar structure that we will be learning in this lesson. Continue on, we will do an English translation for page 196 to 197. That's where the Reibun and Kaiwa is. Sometimes we translate a sentence wrongly and it will be wrong forever. Your understanding will be wrong forever. So be sure to get the English translation, the correct English translation for every sentence. Vocabulary, we will learn 42 words for this lesson, and we will share a bonus clip about talking on the phone. This is where you will hear how keigo is used in a phone conversation. The first grammar is understanding what is keigo. We'll learn keigo in lesson 49 and 50. Keigo is an honorific expression. It is used when you are talking to or speaking about someone of a different status with you. This honorific expression is a way to show the speaker's respect for the listener or the person being referred to. The speaker is expected to show respect depending on his or her relationship with the listener or the person being referred to. There are the following 3 factors that should be considered in deciding whether to use keigo or not. First, speaker is a junior or lower in social status than the listener or the person being referred to. Second factor, the speaker doesn't have a close acquaintance or first-time meetup with the listener or person being referred to. The third factor is the uchi and the soto outsider relationship. Well, in Japanese language, there's a grammar differentiation when you're speaking to an insider or when you're speaking to an outsider, soto, or when you're speaking about somebody in your family or when you're speaking about somebody outside your family. So let's begin with one example. I'm talking about my grandmother, somebody insider. I'm talking about my grandmother to my boss, I'm not allowed to use keigo, even though my grandmother is more senior than me. On the other hand, if I'm talking about my boss to my grandmother, I tell my grandma my boss is 50 years old, for example. I have to use keigo because I'm talking about an outsider, right? Just remember, if you're talking about your boss to your grandmother, you have to use keigo. But when you are telling your boss about your grandmother, you are not allowed to use keigo because your grandmother belongs to somebody in your insider group. Okay. Another example is when you are talking to your grandmother. Okay, when you're talking to your grandmother, or when you're talking to your cousin, or when you're talking to your aunt, grandpa or grandma, you're not allowed to use keigo because they are your family members. Alright? But when you are talking to your boss, or when you're talking to a new acquaintance, a stranger, a policeman, a lecturer, a teacher, a parent's friend, you have to use keigo as a polite expression. Right? So who are the people belonging to insider group? Father, cici oya, mother, haha oya, siblings, kyodai, grandpa and grandma, sofu, sobo, uncle and aunt, oji, oba, cousin, itoko, niece and nephew, mei, oi, in-laws, horitsude. Well, the people belonging to outsider includes your boss, joshi, shop employees, tenin, new acquaintance, shiriai, police, keisatsu, doctor, ishi, lecturer, koshi, neighbor, rinjin, parents' friend, ryoshi no yujin. Keigo are classified into 3 types. Respectful expression is son keigo, humble expression is ken jogo, polite expression is dei neigo. In this lesson 49, we will be learning about respectful expression, son keigo, and a little bit about dei neigo, polite expression. As mentioned before, there are 3 ways that keigo can be expressed in a conversation, where you're talking about someone of a higher status, or when you're talking to someone of a higher status. First way we call the level 1 is using the converted verbs. Please refer to page 198 of lesson 49, where you'll find a table of examples of verb being converted to keigo form. Group 1 verbs, for example, aimasu, it will become awaremasu. Group 2 verbs, kakemasu, it become kakeraremasu. Group 3 verb, kimasu, it become koraremasu. Group 3 verb, shimasu, will become saremasu. This is keigo converted verbs. You're using this when you're talking to someone of a higher status. This is the same verbs used in passive form. If you remember, passive form we learned in lesson 37, ukemi-kei, is exactly the same as ukemi-kei. In this first example, we'll be looking at Michael, who is speaking to his boss, an outsider. In this case, Michael have to use keigo when he's speaking to his boss, because his boss belonging to an outsider, soto. He'll be asking some questions about him, where he used keigo. And his boss is allowed to reply in humble expression, which we will learn in lesson 50. Humble expression is ken jogo. Now, Did you attend the New Year's party yesterday? 昨日の新年会に出られましたか? When will you move to Osaka? いつ大阪に引っ越しされますか? Have you given up drinking? お酒をやめられたんですか? How long can you take a day off? どのくらい休みを取られますか? Can you return to your country during the summer vacation? 夏休みはお国へ帰られますか? So this is an example where Michael is using son keigo speaking to someone of a higher status, his boss. In this second example, Michael is talking about his boss to his colleague Sato-san. Michael, and this is Sato-san. In this situation, both Michael and Sato-san is lower status than his boss. So both of them have to use son keigo, right? So first question, Mr. Nakamura is coming at 7th. 中村さんは7時に来られます。This is a statement, right? So Sato-san probably is telling Michael that Mr. Nakamura is coming at 7th. Over here, Sato-san have to use son keigo. Kimasu become koraremasu. Alright. Next, has the section manager read the material yet? Michael is asking Sato-san. 課長はもう資料を読まれましたか? 読みます become 読まれました。Will the president travel to India next week? 社長は来週インドへ出張されますか? 出張します becomes 出張されます。Can the teacher come to the lab around 8 o'clock? 先生は8時ごろ研究室へ来られますか? 来ます become 来られます。Did the manager just go out? 部長はさっき出かけられましたか? So this is an example where two person of a lower status is talking about someone of a higher status. Both of them have to use son keigo. Well, in this slide, we will be talking about the second way of expressing son keigo. That is to use ni narimasu. At the beginning of the verb, we have to add a o, and then short verb ni narimasu. For example, aimasu become o ai ni narimasu. Aimasu, the short form is ai. Kakemasu becomes o kake ni narimasu. Kimasu and shimasu, this is group 3. Group 3 is cannot use this form for group 3. Some verbs in group 2 cannot be used as well. For example, mimasu, imasu, nemasu, demasu. This verb has only one consonant. For this kind of verbs, we are not allowed to use ni narimasu. This is a level 2 respectfulness. It is more respectful than level 1 converted verbs. Well, in this slide, Michael is talking to someone he just met for the first time. Therefore, he have to use son keigo in every question that he asks. Well, this stranger, if he wants to show politeness, he may also use sonkeigo when he's replying Michael. Do you know where the bus stop is? バス停の場所はお分かりになりますか？わかります become お分かりになります。This is sonkeigo. Okay. Michael's asking, are you tired? お疲れになりましたか？疲れます become お疲れになりましたか？ What kind of place did you stay in Nikko? ニコではどんなところにお泊まりになりましたか？泊まります become お泊まりになりましたか？ Where did you buy that bag? どちらでそのカバンをお買いになりましたか？買います become お買いになりましたか？ When did you meet Mr. Sato? いつ佐藤さんにお会いになりましたか？会います become お会いになりましたか？ In this example, Michael is talking to his colleague Sato-san about somebody more senior than both of them. So over here, both of them have to use sonkeigo. But please note that in here, this is level 2 respectfulness, where you use ni narimasu, which is more respectful than the converted verbs that we used in the first example. So over here, maybe they're talking somebody more senior, for example, the president, the teacher, right? So let's begin. The president has already left for home. Sato wa mou okaeri ni narimashita. Kaerimasu become お帰りになりました。先生は3月に大学をお辞めになりましたか？ Will the teacher quit college in March? Is the teacher taking a flight? 先生は飛行機にお乗りになりませんか？乗ります become お乗りになりませんか？ Did the teacher write this book? この本は先生がお書きになりましたか？書きます become お書きになりましたか？ Did the teacher's wife make this dish? この料理は先生の奥様がお作りになりましたか？作ります become お作りになりましたか？ So this is an example where both of them is a lower status than the person that they are referring to. So both of them will be using sonkeigo level 2. In this slide, we'll be talking about the third way of using sonkeigo in a sentence. The third way is to use respectful equivalent words. This can be found on page 198 of lesson 49. There are only 7 words that are equivalent sonkeigo equivalent words. Ikimasu, kimasu, imasu. The equivalent sonkeigo is irashaimasu. Tabemasu, nomimasu. The sonkeigo equivalent words is meshi agarimasu. Imasu. The sonkeigo equivalent words is oshaimasu. Shite imasu. The sonkeigo equivalent words is gojonji desu. Mimasu. The sonkeigo equivalent is goran ni narimasu. Shimasu. The sonkeigo equivalent words is nasaimasu. Kuremasu. The sonkeigo expression is kudasaimasu. So these are the 7 words equivalent sonkeigo equivalent words. These are level 2 respectfulness. same level as the ni narimasu sound keigo. In this example, the announcer will use sound keigo when he's introducing a guest speaker. The guest speaker may reply in a humble expression. The guest speaker here is Michael. The first question, what's your name? お名前は何とおっしゃいますか? おっしゃいますか is a sound keigo equivalent words for imasu. And Michael will reply, Mira to imasu. I'm called Michael. When did you come to Japan? いつ日本へいらっしゃいましたか? 去年の4月に来ました。I came last year April. Where your family lives? ご家族はどちらにいらっしゃいますか? They live in New York. ニューヨークにいます。七人侍はもうご覧になりましたか? Have you watched The Seven Samurai? はい、見ました。Yes, I had watched. Do you know the name of Japanese Prime Minister? 日本の首相の名前をご存知ですか? ご存知ですか is 知りましたか? いいえ、知りません。So this is how a guest speaker is allowed to use humble expression in reply, while the announcer have to use sound keigo because he's introducing a guest speaker. In this example, Michael is talking to his colleague Sato-san about someone of a higher status, because both Michael and Sato-san is lower status than the person that they are talking about. So both of them will question and answer using sound keigo. Please note that in one of the conversation, Sato-san will reply in the opinion of Sato-san. Therefore, the verb turns into a futsuke form. 召し上がりません becomes 召し上がらないと思います。Question 1. Who will greet him? どなたが挨拶をなさいますか? 小林先生がなさいます。will greet him. Where is Mr. Tanaka? 田中さんはどちらにいらっしゃいますか? He's at the lobby. ロビーにいらっしゃいます。What did the president say? 社長は何とおっしゃいましたか? 会議に出席するとおっしゃいました。He said he will attend the meeting. Does Mr. Watt drink sake? ワット先生はお酒を召し上がりますか? Sato-san will reply in the opinion of Sato-san. いえ、召し上がらないと思います。Does Nakamura section manager watch kabuki? The question here, Michael asks Sato-san, and Sato-san will reply in her opinion. はい、ご覧になると思います。Yes, I think he do watch. So please note that ご覧になります is the correct answer, but because this is Sato-san is replying in her opinion, so ご覧になります become ご覧になる. This is a futsuke form because it's と思います. So in this example, we are seeing how two people is talking about somebody of a higher status, and both of them have to use sound keigo. In this slide, we are learning about how to request someone to do something for us in a polite way, in a sound keigo method. So the sentence structure will end with kudasai, and the beginning of the sentence will start with either o or go. And the verb here will be shortened verb. So machimasu become machi, kakemasu become kake. So for example, for group 1 verbs, machimasu. Machimasu, it becomes o machi kudasai. Kakemasu become o kake kudasai. Group 3 verbs kimasu. Go ki kudasai, it's a bit odd. Most people will just use irashaimasu. For group 3 verbs, shuseki shimasu, you may use go. Go shuseki kudasai. Okay. For some exceptions such as tabemasu, those words that have a sound keigo equivalent words like tabemasu, shirimasu, imasu, all those you may simply use the sound keigo converted verbs instead of the original shortened verbs. So for example, tabemasu, instead of using o tabe kudasai, it's more polite to just use meshi agate kudasai. For group 2, there are some exceptions. Some of the words mimasu, imasu, nemasu, and demasu are not allowed to use this shortened form of kudasai. Other than the verbs, adjective, noun can also be presented in a polite form. The polite form for noun, adjective, and adverbs simply using o at the front of the word or go at the front of the word. There are some words that using o and some words using go. Let's see. For noun, o kuni, country, name or namae, job or shigoto, guest or kyaku sama, residence or taku, celebration or iwai, o saifu is wallet, okane is money, o tegami is letter, o heya room, o sokuji meal, o jikan time, o karada body. Adjective na, o genki fine, healthy, o joju talented, o hima spare time, o suki to like. Adjective I, we have o isogashi busy, o kawaii young, o hayai early quick, o sabishi lonely, o takai high expensive. Adverbs, we have o nori kai change right. Words using go, we have noun go shitsumon question, go anai guidance, go sujin husband, go kigen mood, go keiken experience, go kajoku family, go kanshin is interest, go shusho address, go kenkyu study, go iken opinion. Adjectives, we have go tabo busy, go shinpai worried, go manjoku is satisfied, go ripa is splendid, go neshin passionate, go muri unreasonable, go jiu free, go teine polite. Adverb, please be careful. For adverb, we cannot use go ki kudasai, okay? Instead, please use irashaimasu for the teine form of come. So this is the example of noun, adjectives, and adverbs using teine go polite form. Well, it's good to know some of the general words that we normally use to express polite form. For example, I, good. The polite form is yoroshi. Chotto, a little. The polite form is shosho. Person, hito. The polite form is kata. Today, kyo. The polite form is honjitsu. Gomenasai, sorry. The polite form is moshiwake arimasen. Soon, sugu. The polite form is mamonaku or tadaima. Des, the polite form is de gozaimasu. De gozaimasu, we always use this a lot. So these are the common words that we use day to day in the polite form. If you ask your boss, is now a good time? Ima yoroshii desu ka? Instead of ima ii desu ka? Normally for the shop, they will post a signboard saying that we are sorry, today we are closed. They will write it as moshiwake arimasen ga honjitsu wa oyasumi shimasu. Moshiwake arimasen, sorry. Honjitsu, today. Oyasumi is we are resting today. Buchou no okusama mo go isho ni gorufu ni ikaremasu. In this sentence, there are some teinego and also sonkeigo. Okusama is noun, the polite form for noun. Oku and sama. Sama is the polite form here. Ishoni is go ishoni, it becomes more polite. And ikimasu become ikaremasu, this is sonkeigo. So you can see that this sentence is very, very polite because we are talking about somebody more senior and higher in status. So we are using sonkeigo and teine here. So I hope that this slide gives us a view of how to use teinego and sonkeigo in our day-to-day life. In this example, a nurse at hospital reception, uketsuke, is talking to a guest, okyaku-sama. She's asking the guest to do something politely using keigo kudasai. You'll find in this conversation there are some noun and adjectives presented in polite form. The guest may use humble expression kenjogo, which we will learn in lesson 50, or he may also use sonkeigo. Please write your address and name here. こちらに住所とお名前をお書きください. Notice address, 住所, is a noun and is presented in a polite form, become go 住所. お名前, 名前は is presented in a polite form, becomes お名前. お書きください. This is sonkeigo, asking somebody politely using sonkeigo ください. お書きください. Please attend. ぜひご受席ください. Remember, this is 受席 shimasu is group 3 verb, so we use go. ご受席ください. Please wait here for a while. こちらでしばらくお待ちください. Machimasu is group 1, so become お待ちください. Please show your insurance card. 保険証をお出しください. Dashimasu is group 2, so group 1, sorry. So become お出しください. Have a nice weekend. よろしい週末を過ごしください. Sugoshimasu is group 1 verb, so become o sugoshi kudasai. This is sumatsu become yoroshi sumatsu. This is the polite form of sumatsu. Have a nice weekend. So this is how you can use son keigo and teinei polite form in a sentence or in a conversation when you are talking to a guest. In this slide, we will learn the polite form of shite. The polite form of shite is mashite. The te form has many uses in Japanese. By itself, it is not a complete form. You cannot end a grammatical complete sentence with simply shite. So normally if there is a shite, it has to followed by another sentence at the end. Or there's another use of shite is doing something. When you're doing something at that moment, you use shite. So as you can see, the positive form of shite is simply shite, and the polite form of the positive shite is mashite. The negative form of shite is naide or nakute. The polite negative form is masen. Later on, we will look at the example for all these different form of te. I poured on syrup and ate the pancakes. Syrup wo kakemashite. This is actually kakemasu. It becomes a kakete. It becomes kakemashite. Pankeki o tabeta. I sent it 3 weeks ago and it's probably gotten there by now. 3週間前送りまして、今ままでにそこに届いただろう。送ります。The normal form of te is 送って。It become 送りまして。Happy New Year! 明けましておめでとうございます。明けます become 明けて become 明けまして。In this table, we will see how the positive te form, the polite positive te form, and then the negative te form and the polite negative te form. To eat, taberu. The positive te form is tabete. This is a group 2, tabete. The polite te form is tabemashite. Tabete, tabemashite. The plain negative form is tabenaide. Polite negative form is tabemasen de. Hanashimasu, hanasu. This is group 1, hanasu. The te form is become hanashite. Hanashimashite. Hanasanaide. Hanashimasen de. Matsu, to wait. Matte. Machimashite. Matanaide. Machimasen de. Matanaide means not a lot, cannot wait. Matanakute. This normally comes with a narimasu. Matanakute narimasu. Today, shini. The te form is shinde. The polite te form is shinimashite. The negative form is shinanaide. Shinanakute. The polite negative form is shinimasen de. To do, suru, is a group 3 verb. The te form is shite, becomes shimashite. The plain negative form is shinaide or shinakute. The polite negative form is shimasende. Kuru. Kuru is group 3 verb. The te form is kite. The polite te form is kimashite. Negative form is konaide, konakute. The polite negative form is komasende. Please note that this teine form of mashite cannot be used together with kudasai. So you can never say tabemashite kudasai. This is grammatically incorrect. You may say tabete kudasai. That's it. Whenever you use kudasai is you are asking somebody to do, you are asking for help. You are asking somebody for help. And the best way to use kudasai is just the te form by itself. So tabete kudasai. Tabemashite kudasai is not allowed. Okay, but we do learn about o tabe kudasai. Remember, in the previous grammar section, grammar number 4, we learned that there's a polite form of requesting somebody to do something. We can use o tabe kudasai, but we can never use tabemashite kudasai. But we can use o tabe kudasai. Hope you are clear about this. Alright. In this slide, we will give you some example of how shite becomes mashite in a sentence. For example, Hans became feverish last night and still has a fever this morning. ハンスがゆべ熱出しまして、今朝もまだ下がらないんです。出して become 出しまして。This is a group 1 verb. Example number 2. Department head is talking on the phone now. Please come again later. 部長が電話で話しましているので、後でまた来てください。電話で話しているので become 話しましているので。The teacher is still teaching. Please be quiet. 先生はまだ教えましています。静かにしてください。教えています become 教えましています。The polite form of 教えています is 教えましています。So this is how we can use the polite form of して in a sentence. In this slide, we will do an English translation for Bunkei and Reibun. Please turn to page 196 of the textbook, Minna no Nihongo, lesson 49. The first Bunkei. 課長は帰られました。The section head has already gone home. 社長はお帰りになりました。The company president has already gone home. 部長はアメリカへ出張なさいます。The department head will go to America on business. しばらくお待ちください。Please wait for a moment. These are the 4 Bunkei that we will be learning in lesson 49. The sentence example. この本は読まれましたか? Have you read all of these books? A. もう読みました。Yes, I have read it all. Notice the questions is using sound keigo. 読みます become 読まれました。In over here, the person may reply in a simple form, not polite form, so he simply replies yomimashita. Bucho wa dochira desu ka? Where's the department head? Saki odekake ni narimashita. Just went out. Notice here doko become dochira. This is the polite form of doko. Saki odekake ni narimashita. This is the sonkeigo level 2, where you use o at the front. We use the short form of the verb dekake, and then ni narimasu. This is level 2 respectfulness, sonkeigo. So over here, the person who is asking a question is probably a junior person, and the person replying this is also a junior person because he is also replying in sonkeigo. Yoku eiga o goran ni narimasu ka? Do you often watch movie? そうですね。たまに妻と見に行きます。In this sentence, the question is using sonkeigo. This is the sonkeigo equivalent words for mimasu. Becomes goran ni narimasu. So the person who is asking this question is a junior person, a person who is younger or lower in status than the person who is replying, because the person who is replying, he is using a humble expression without the sonkeigo, so he's using mini ikimasu. Ogawa-san no musuko san ga Sakura Daigaku ni goukaku shita no o gozonji desu ka? Do you know that Ogawa's son graduated from Sakura University? Iie, I didn't know. Shirimasen deshita. The person who is asking this question is more junior than Ogawa-san, or lower status than Ogawa-san. That's why he's using sonkeigo to refer to Ogawa. In this sentence, as you can see over here, he's using the sonkeigo in gojonji desu ka. Gojonji desu ka is shirimashita ka? Do you know? Shirimashita ka? It becomes gojonji desu ka. This is the sonkeigo equivalent words. And the person who is replying this is using a humble expression using shirimasen deshita. So the person who is replying this is somebody more senior than the person who is asking the question. Onamae wa nan to oshaimasu ka? What to iimasu? The question is using sonkeigo equivalent words for iimasu, become oshaimasu. The person who is asking this question is lower in status than Wato-san, and the person who is replying is Wato-san himself, so he's using to iimasu without any sonkeigo. Oshigoto wa nan to nasatte imasu ka? Ginkoin desu. Wappuru ginko ni tsutomete imasu. The person who is asking this question is using sonkeigo. As you can see, shigoto is a noun, and the polite form of shigoto is o shigoto. Nasaimasu is a polite form of the sonkeigo form of shimasu, because this is about a job, so it has to be written in a te form, so become nasatte imasu. I work for Wapuru Bank. Wapuru Ginko ni tsutomete imasu. The person who is replying this, he is working there himself, and he is probably more senior than the person who asked this question, so he did not use any sonkeigo in his reply. Matsumoto bucho wa irashaimasu ka? Ko chira no o buya desu. Dojo o hairi kudasai. Is Manager Matsumoto there? Yes, he is in the manager's room. Please enter. So over here, the person who is asking this question is lower in status than Matsumoto-san, so he's using the sonkeigo equivalent words for imasu, which is irashaimasu. And the person who is replying this is also less or lower in status than Matsumoto-san, so the person who is replying this also use sonkeigo and teinei. As you can see, heya is the polite form is oheya, and ohairi kudasai, the polite form of asking someone to do something, is ohairi kudasai. In this slide, we will do an English translation for Kaiwa on page 197. The title of this Kaiwa is Yoroshiku otsutai kudasai. Please let me know. Sensei is talking to Clara-san, and in this instant, because Sensei is a teacher and is an acquaintance to Clara, so when the teacher is talking to Clara, he may use or may not use sonkeigo, but for Clara, she will have to use keigo as a polite expression. Sensei, hi. Himawari Shogakko desu. Hello, this is Himawari Elementary School. Ohayou gozaimasu. 5年2組の半数、Sumitoの母ですが、Ito sensei wa irashaimasu ka? Good morning. This is Mrs. Smith speaking. I'm the mother of Hans Smith, a pupil in class 2 of 5th grade. May I speak to Miss Ito? Mada nan desu ga? She's not here yet. Dewa, Ito sensei ni tsutaete itadakitaiんですが? Then would you please pass a message to her? はい、何でしょうか? Yes, certainly. What is it? 実はハンスがゆうべ熱を出しまして、今朝もまだ下がらないんです。In fact, Hans ran a fever last night and it has not dropped yet this morning. それはいけませんね。That's not good. それで今日は学校を休みませんので、先生によろしくお伝えください。So today, not going to school. Therefore, could you tell that to Miss Ito, please? わかりました。どうぞお大事に。Understood. Hope he recovers soon. ありがとうございます。失礼いたします。Well, in this conversation, Clara-san is using sonkeigo, And if we have to identify the son keigo that she's using, the first one is when Clara-san is asking where is Ito sensei. Ito sensei wa irashaimasu ka? In place of imasu, it becomes irashaimasu. The next son keigo that Clara-san used is when Clara-san is asking the teacher to pass a message to Ito sensei. では、Ito sensei に伝えていただきたいんですが、いただきたいんです。This is いただきます become いただきます is actually the polite form from もらいます so it become いただきます。いただきたいんです。And then the next son keigo that Clara-san is using is when Clara-san is explaining about Hans. Hans has not recovered yet and he ran a fever last night. So he's using dashimasu become dashimashite. The next keigo that Clara-san is using is when Clara-san is asking the teacher to tell Ito sensei that Hans will not be going to school today. So それで今日は学校を休みませんので先生によろしくお伝えください。Over here, kudasai is presented in a polite form using o, tsutai kudasai. And the teacher replied, wakarimashita, dojo o daiji ni. This is also considered polite by inserting dojo. And Clara-san replied, arigatou gozaimasu, shitsurei itashimasu. This is a humble form of shitsurei shimasu. We've come to the vocabulary section for lesson 49. Tsutomemasu is a group 2 verb. It means to work for a company. Kaisha ni tsutomemasu. Kakemasu, sit on a chair. Isu ni kakemasu. Yorimasu, drop in. Ginko ni yorimasu, drop into a bank. Yasumimasu, go to bed or sleep. Sugoshimasu, to spend or pass on the time. Sugoshimasu. Irashaimasu is a respectful equivalent of imasu, ikimasu, and kimasu. Meshi agarimasu is a respectful equivalent for tabemasu and nomimasu. Oshaimasu is son keigo equivalent for imasu. Nasaimasu is son keigo equivalent for shimasu. Goran ni narimasu is respectful equivalent for mimasu. Gojanji desu is respectful equivalent for shite imasu. Aisatsu is greeting, address. Haizara is ashtray. Ryokan is a Japanese style hotel or inn. Kaijo, meeting place, hall. Basutei, bus stop. Boeki, trade. Sama, respectful equivalent for son. Kairi ni, on the way back. Tama, once in a while. Tsutomo, not at all, used with negative. And ryo naku, without reserve, without hesitation. Nen, kumi, class of, grade. Dewa is a polite equivalent for ja. Dashimasu, run, a fever. Netsu o dashimasu. Yoroshiku o tsutai kudasai, give my best regards to. Shitsurei itashimasu, polite equivalent for shitsurei shimasu. Koshi, lecturer. Oku no, many, much. 作品 work of 受賞します be awarded a prize 世界的に worldwide 作家 novelist writer でいらっしゃいます respectful form of です長男 one's eldest son 障害 handicap defect お待ちです respectful way of saying 待っています作曲 composition music 活動 activity それでは well so indicating an end or beginning Nobel Prize of Literature ノーベル文学賞大見ジャブロ Japanese novelist name Well, we have come to the bonus clip where we will use son keigo when you are talking on the phone. In this phone conversation, Karina is calling the house of Tanaka-san. She's looking to speak to Mr. Tanaka. Hello, is this Tanaka's residence? もしもし、田中さんのお宅でいらっしゃいますか？はい。田中さんのお宅でございます。Yes, this is Tanaka-san's residence. 私、カリナと申しますが、田中さんはいらっしゃいますか？ This is Karina calling. Can I speak to Mr. Tanaka? So the answers could be yes, and the answer could also be no. いえ、違います。This is not the residence. And Karina-san should try to leave the phone conversation by saying, あ、失礼しました。Oh, I'm sorry. So in this first conversation, we can find several sonkeigo. First sonkeigo is いらっしゃいます。This is a sonkeigo equivalent for います。います。The next sonkeigo that we can, the next teinego polite expression that we can find here is でございます。The polite form of です is でございます。The next sonkeigo that we can find here is here. 田中さんはいらっしゃいますか？ Once again, this is also います。The sonkeigo equivalent of います。So these are the three sonkeigo and polite expressions that we can find in the first conversation. In this second part of the conversation, there are several possibilities. Tanaka-san is actually around to answer the phone, so Tanaka-san is around and Tanaka-san will speak up. Another alternative is Tanaka-san is not around and Karina-san may want to leave a message, or Karina-san may try to call in again later on. If Tanaka-san is speaking on the phone, then the person in the residence will say, Yes, one moment please. はい、ちょっとお待ちください。And Tanaka-san will answer the phone. もしもし、田中さん、田中です。が、If Tanaka is not around, then the person in the house will say 田中さんは外出ですが Tanaka is out. Karina will say あ、そうですか。伝言のお願いできますか？ I see. May I leave a message? はい、どうぞ。Yes, go ahead. ではすみませんが会議は 10時に始まるとお伝えください。Please tell him the meeting will start at 10. はい、わかりました。Yes, certainly. Another alternative is Karina will call again. 田中さんは出かけておりますが、田中さん is not here. When will he come back? 何時頃お帰りになりますか？ 10 時頃になると思いますが、He will be back around 10, I think. では、その頃またお電話します。I'll call again around that time then. そうですか、I see. 失礼します。Goodbye. In this second part of the conversation, there are several polite expression and respectful expression. The first respectful expression that sound keigo that we can find here is omachi kudasai. Omachi kudasai. When you are requesting someone politely to wait, omachi kudasai. Then the next polite and sound keigo that we can find here is otsutai kudasai. This is also politely asking for help, so please tell him by saying otsutai kudasai. Then the next, there's one humble expression here, odekakete orimasu, which we will learn in lesson 50 later on. Orimasu, this is a humble expression. We'll get back to this in lesson 50. And the next, this is a level 2 sound keigo, okaeri ni narimasu. Level 2 respectful expression sound keigo. And then we also have here mata odenwa shimasu. This is also a sound keigo, a respectfulness saying that she will call back. So here, this is how you can use sound keigo in a phone conversation. Please try it yourself if you are calling somebody the house of a Japanese. You may use this. And thank you for listening all the way through. This is lesson 49 done. Subscribe to our channel, Whiz-Million Academy, for more lessons. Goodbye.